So for a while, I was very into psilocybin mushrooms. And when I broke my neck, I had to wear a teal green neck brace, which was a similar color to paintings of green Tara we had. It was like I was given a brace to work in the digital world. Like I couldn't look down at a phone. I couldn't look to see what other people were doing. I just had to be super zen and feminine. I mean, now I feel like my writing is left-handed and I make choices to make color with this hand. So I feel an incredible tuning in of a balance of masculine and feminine. And when I sew, I do chant. I chant the same mantra again and again, and I love it because I can just keep sewing.
Thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Hello and welcome to Elevated Conversations. My gosh, this is an amazing conversation with this beautiful soul, Nuestro. He talks about his near-death experience and how through his near-death experience, he was able to remember past lives. He was able to remember music, chants, gifts and abilities of lives that he's had before that are coming through more and more now in his day-to-day life. He is such a beautiful soul. I'm sure you're going to feel that as you hear the stories of being ex-soldier to now a traveler who helps people to heal, connect to a person's perhaps loved one that has passed, all through his gifts and his amazing tapestries, all of which he couldn't do before this near-death experience. So please enjoy the magical Nuestro.
So then when I was preparing for this call last night, I was laying in bed kind of thinking of you two and kind of sending good energy or whatever that means, just at least having that thought of I should be connecting with them in some way. And then some things started coming through specifically for the two of you. And I thought, oh, maybe this isn't the right space to share. But anyway, I just feel a sense of gratitude for the path that the two of you have been on because I was feeling strongly this understanding and desire to kind of help the world and then working in the system to try to affect that. And now we're chatting about, raising the vibe and wonderful. So wherever you want to go from there or whatever you want to hear, I'm game.
Oh, you're so beautiful. Oh my God. That's really nice. My heart right now. That was really nice. Thank you for
Yeah,
acknowledging
yeah,
us and our work. And that was
yeah.
beautiful. And yeah, thank you for your service as well. Like your light is really bright. It's so nice to see and connect with you. And so happy to see that you had that dip of beauty in your journey and come out of it. And I love you're not dying, you're just having a mushroom trip. Like that is
It
so
was like
good.
it was like music. It was so melodic and wonderful, and immediately it was a resonance within me. And I understood like, oh, okay. There's such a big there's such a big pull by the earth and the universe and everything right now to heal, but it's not so much an efforting that we have to do. It's more the vibe is raising and um go with it.
Yeah.
And it's cool too because then I kind of found a profession or just a movement of my body that is super zen and quiet, doesn't harm anybody, doesn't bother anyone, and yeah, it teaches me so much. The crazy thing too is that I kind of have been doing some of these interviews talking about the NDE part, but the wild part for me is just what's coming through every day, and what I'm now sewing is like really sweet galaxies, stars.
Mm.
Uh, and one other thing I'll say too, just because I feel I have to deposit this and then we'll come to it maybe later. I I started sewing stars now for people who have died. So whenever I'm sewing, for some reason, I attract people who have lost somebody who has died. And I feel very strongly connected to like spirit or the other side of the veil or whatever it is. So people will share a story of death with me and I'll sew a star for that person. And over time, it starts to do its own thing. It shows me color, blue, gold, how to have it radiate out, other stars that are around it. And I begin to understand the spiritual side of that being, and then I can kind of relay messages. And so even though this looks like kind of an empty part of the sky that I'm working on, I've been sewing a star for in the middle, a man who was murdered, and the message that came through from him. I must share at some point before we finish. Don't let me forget. But yeah, a lot has been coming through, and I'd love to show you more. But I feel I again have to pass it to you to see like where do we go?
Yeah. Well, let's just start with for the viewers to set it up, like
Yeah,
what
yeah.
exactly you do, how you got into it, and the awakening process of your story, and into this amazing creations that you work. And then I think we'll dive deep into some of the work that you're doing. How
Yeah.
does that
I
sound?
think a really great question to have clarity on. Were you doing tapestries before your accident?
No, no. The only sewing I ever did was with dental floss when I was on a training mission in Ranger School. I sewed my one of my patches on with like a sewing kit. So I was in the military long before. But other than that, uh, no. There was one time I needed help sewing a tent, and some Burmese ladies at a meditation center helped me. So I was at a machine, but I didn't know what to do, and they took over. But no, absolutely no sewing, which is so wild to be doing it now because it's still the same. I still can say like this is my first time, or I'm just getting started. I'm kind of learning, but at this point, I feel like I feel many lifetimes of sewing memory kind of coming through. I can recall specifically sewing before, but not in this body, and to the extent to which I could prove it in ways, but I realize I can just keep sewing it and not have to really say that publicly so much. Um, yeah, so I've never sewn before, first time.
I love that. It's so good. So, Hal, tell us, you had a near-death experience. You went to the other side, and is that
Yeah,
how what triggered your awakening? Share a little bit about maybe that story. We'd love to hear.
yeah, yeah. Well, let's see. So, what's important about that? So I had a near-death experience. Also, I guess people would say an out-of-body experience, OBE. I was at a lake. There was a water slide. I went down head first, very fast, shot off the end, dove into the water, and I immediately struck the bottom because it was 2 feet deep. And many things started to change in that moment. I felt a lot of strange emotions. The biggest one was embarrassment, like, oh, I've just ruined this party. We were kind of at a lake party. I remember shuddering backwards in the water and hearing the voice in my chest that wasn't my voice say, slow down. And then I remember standing up out of the water. The water was almost like knee deep. I mean, it was so shallow, very shocking to kind of see it. And immediately, to me, the world felt sideways or cracked open, or just so many things were not making sense. All I could do was focus on maintaining my balance. I felt very out of balance, and I could see around me these orbs of light floating in the air. But it was, and that was so strange, but I was so focused on my balance, nothing else really was of much importance. I stumbled out of the water. Friends got me into a car, took me to the hospital, and after some testing, they found my neck was fully broken, and I was the next day taken into surgery. There was a point too when morphine was offered to me, my heart stopped. I felt like I was going into a tunnel, but not too much happened there. I was already feeling very separate from my body. Things were very, very strange. The whole time I was practicing meditation. I knew because I had been meditating for 7 years, when you're close to the moment of death, it's really great to be really aware. That's a great way to exit. And that had been taught to me many times. I'd read it many times in suttas. Now I feel I can remember them from previous studies in previous lifetimes. So this day of the surgery, as I'm being prepared, I had this strong feeling to ask where I was going. And again, I could feel it wasn't my request. It was like a voice coming through me. So the nurses gave us the logistics of which elevator, which hallway, which room, and where I would wake up. And after that was given to me and I heard it, then I began observing my breathing coming in through the nostrils, going out, focusing my attention down to like a diamond-sized point of focus on just the feeling of the breath in the moment. So really narrowing my focus so that I could be so released from my whole life, my whole past, and not at all worried about what was about to come. and I did it. I mean, I did it to the best of my ability, and it was really sweet too, because at the moment of death, I can imagine if you think you're about to die, and I was told you may die, so it was very clear. It couldn't be more clear. Like this might be the end, and I had to really be with that, and it was so. It was a moment of like metallic clang, no, and then a release, and then a ah. I know what to do. I have the practice. It's not that hard. I observe my breathing. I make my focus really tight. I did it. Sweet peace in that moment. And from that sweet peace, the next place I was standing at a giant doorway. And, words are just a color to kind of paint the scene. It was more energy. But I was standing at a doorway, and in the doorway were six luminous beings of light. And I didn't even really it took months to even remember this scene. It came in slowly. When I returned to my body, I couldn't remember it, but more and more as I've dwelled in that space, I can remember it more and more. But it was robed figures in like white kind of robes, but the main thing I was drawn to was this radiation of really beautiful blue light. And I couldn't even see what was in the center of them. I could just see what was radiating off of them, and it was very peaceful. It was something you want to be close to and like open your chest to. And one was more forward than all of the others. And this was the person communicating with me. It was telepathic. There were no words, but the energy of it was the energy you would give at the end of a meeting, like we were saying goodbye. So something had happened, but I couldn't remember it. And there was an agreement being made. And the most important part of the agreement was you have to do the work. And I had no idea what the work was. But in that moment, receiving the message, I had no resistance to it. It was just like, oh, okay. And then I was turned away from them and I started moving back toward my body. Eventually, I could start to see it kind of in the world, on the stretcher, in the hospital. But I was seeing it from the energy space, or I was energy. So my perception was more focused on people in the room, the levels of the hospital, and all of the different colors of the people who were suffering or helping or suffering because they couldn't figure out how to help. And then I merged with my body, and then I could see the walls of the room and everything. Um, and I knew I wasn't dead, and that was great. And I think in that moment too, I kind of knew I've, people say like you feel like you've been given another chance. It wasn't even the idea of a chance. It was more, I'm back and I'm here to raise the vibe. Like, whatever that was that I just experienced, like y'all gotta try it, or you know, it's not separate from us. There are all of these practices. It's so clear. There are many pathways, and uh, and yeah. So I sat there in the hospital room 3 days, just nothing to do but think and meditate. They had a TV, which is such a pity, in front of me. I had it off the whole time, and there's a window, but I couldn't. I'm pointing this way, but I couldn't look out the window. I could just sit there in my neck brace in quite a lot of pain, but I was meditating. Um, Weird stuff came through. I mean, just briefly, because it's so strange, and maybe this is for another call or chat. But when I was young, I guarded Saddam Hussein. His energy came through. I blessed him and sent him on his way, or just forgave him and like released any tension that he and I had. I was 19. I didn't really know, you know, his history anyway. I felt Kennedy, JFK come through. My grandfather was one of Kennedy's best friends and was murdered 10 days after Kennedy. So the both of those men came through, kind of sharing some stuff. And and then I just laid there, and then I went home, and then I just laid there for about a month. Couldn't move, couldn't feed myself very well. People would cook for me. And then one day, I asked a friend to order me an embroidery kit online. Um, and the reasons for it, I think from now on I'll keep private. Um, but I wanted to sew a rose. I wanted to sew a little rose, and I mean tiny, tiny rose. I can show it to you in a second. Um, and you get, this little embroidery hoop, kind of the shape of the circle between the two of your heads, the smaller one, um, which is beautiful, by the way. And I was given three options of color, like a cream white, a powder blue, and black. And I thought, well, that it'll look cool on black. So I just sewed a little rose on black, tiny. I mean, the size smaller than my fingertip. Um, And as I was doing it, it was the sweetest feeling. It was like little, I mean, this not to be obscene, but just like little orgasms, but in a totally like heart-centered kind of way. It was so sweet to listen to the sound of the thread passing through the cloth. It was so sweet to feel the tension and then feel it stop and know I had enough thread to work with when I pulled it back through. And it was like music to me. It was so sweet, and it still is to this moment. So I just kept going. I sewed a wolf hovering above the rows. I sewed two little birds, a little tree for the birds, a butterfly, a little garden for the birds and the butterfly. And then I started to see, oh, this tree wants to be bigger. So I attached more fabric. I got rid of the hoop. Who needs a hoop anyway? Guidance to all the embroiderers. Toss your hoop out, get bigger. I started doing big, crazy, messy stitches, and I told myself I'm never going to mess up. Anytime I had a thought of, you did this wrong, I quickly cut that out because this is my first time, and you can't do it wrong your first time. Um, then I started to notice strange things like I'm choosing where to put the needle in, but I'm never looking when I poke it back through. Something else is making that choice. So half the time, it's not me. And as I sew more, I start to feel strongly these beings guiding me, and even to the extent of I was sewing in Costa Rica one evening alone, maybe around midnight or 1 in the morning. No, around 11. They're telling me. And I saw a face push through like the black cloth, and uh I had a moment of terror and then a moment of whoa. Okay, okay. I can really trust and I can really get crazy and big, or I can just really forget any idea of what I think I'm doing and just let the colors flow. Let the dreams come and show me what to do. Let the visions appear in my mind and then forget them. And and now at this point I'm sewing stars for people in real life and connecting with spirits very strongly that seem like they want to help, you know, like a lot of people are dying, but that's really been all the time. And now, since we're in such a shifting phase of the planet, the galaxy, all of this energy, these spirits are hanging close by. A lot of them want to help because they suddenly see what's going on the planet in a totally different way. They see the energy moving, they see the currents of emotion, they see the weather of anxiety and the weather of love. You know, they see all of this stuff irrespective of politics, borders, you know, levels. And yeah, so I'm excited to be along for the ride. And then it's cool because now I get to chat with people like you know. And where, for me, this is important. Where on the planet are you right now?
We're in Australia,
Amazing.
Queensland, the Sunshine Coast.
Okay, amazing, amazing. Yeah, what a sweet thing to connect. And I'm in the mountains of Asheville, all the way up on top of a mountain. So in the hurricanes, you know, off the coast
Whereabouts,
somewhere.
sorry, which
Flor
place?
is that Florida?
Asheville, North Carolina. No, we're the hurricane's near Florida, and I'm inland up in the Appalachian Mountains, the some of the oldest mountains in the world. So a very grounded place, you know.
Mm.
And
Um,
it's so beautiful that Costa Rica has tied in with your journey because that's actually where Roxy and I kind of made our shift as well. My brother came back from an ayahuasca retreat. He was a different guy and he said, "You've got to go." And without letting our logical mind think about it too much, we just sort of fell out of my mouth. She couldn't believe it. I just said to her, "It sounds like we've got to go," right? And we were insurance agents.
wow.
We had staff and a shop, and you know what I mean? We were doing plant and machinery insurance. And
And
I
what year was that? When?
That was 2019. Yeah.
Okay. Wow, wow.
So we had a bit of an awakening in August and
Okay.
realized we were light workers, and that just completely activated our soul. And then not long after that, we went to arrhythmia, and then the world shut down. And so we got our healing. We went to Costa Rica to
Wow,
Rhythmia.
wow.
You might have heard of that place. We did 4 nights of the
Yeah.
medicine back to back, turned ourselves inside out.
Wow, wow.
And yeah, continue to visit there every year. We're about to go there
Hmm.
again, actually. Um,
Amazing. When? Wait, maybe we'll cross paths. When are you going to be there?
the 20th of October.
Ah, okay, okay, maybe not. I'll be in England next. So,
Okay.
Oh,
wow. Well, we'll
that'd be
send.
amazing.
Yeah, send good vibes from there. That's yeah, that because it's also the energy of Costa Rica. If you look at the whole continent, it's really tight there, or it's squeezed in a way, the landmass, but then it's incredibly verdant, and the energy is so powerful. It's like the center of the spine of uh the whole continent mass. Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Wow,
The
amazing.
the tube of enlightenment, perhaps. The
Mm,
energy's
mm,
traveling through there.
mm.
One of the things I'd love to just share with you that's been coming through in sessions that I've been doing with people that,
Oh, and can I here? Can I want to. Is it okay if I sew while you talk? And I'll move the laptop, but
yes,
Yeah, we
whenever
love
you're
that.
prepared,
amazing.
I would love
This is
Yes,
to.
so cool. You can do
I'll
anything.
like I'll
We're
infuse it in
happy.
the okay, the energy of this because I like a good share, you know. I'm a
yes.
sucker for a good spiritual story.
I'm going to
All right.
love
And then I
to
think
let people see more of
Let's,
this tapestry. It's
I
amazing.
wonder what you're going to sew with this conversation.
yeah, yeah. We'll get and actually I drink tons of water, so I'll need to take a moment to
You
um
go for it. It's not
but
a problem at all.
I really love this. This is so unique. Nuestro.
and then I'll set this up and I'll take a restroom break. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Most definitely,
Okay.
yes.
And then maybe um let's see. I want to
So
make it.
as you were talking about, like you
Yeah, yeah,
made
yeah.
a point in for the stitch, and then it's almost like the veil brings it back through to the third dimension in the physical realm when you were saying
Yes.
that before.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. So I'm and then we'll take a break and I want to hear your story. I won't talk too much about sewing. But the I take a look at the fabric, I want to say like the fabric of space-time, but I take a look at the world. The world right now is a piece of fabric in front of me for my experience of the world. And I just look to see where I can add more balance or harmony. And I make a choice. So it's a conscious choice. Then I pull it through. But then when I bring the needle back to the fabric, it chooses a totally different spot. So I thought it was going to come up here, but it's come right here. So then I pull the thread through and I say, okay, based on that gift from the universe, and I don't think it through like this, but this is the feeling. Based on that gift given to me, totally unexpected, totally changed my mind. I thought it was going to be something else. How can I use that new thing to make harmony again, or beauty, or peace? And then I realized, well, I don't know. So all I can do is be peaceful in my body, and then if I do that, the thread knows where to go, and I pull it through. It comes out again, new spot, totally unexpected, and I just work like that and I can just kind of go wherever the energy directs me. And I have no idea what this will become. It could be an angel, it could be like a patch of a galaxy. I don't know.
wow, that's
Yeah,
so cool.
yeah. But I'll take a break real quick and
Yeah.
then I want to hear your story because yeah, I could
Yes.
talk a lot. I want to hear you.
So are you connecting only with past souls that have visited through this earth plane, or are you connecting to galactic consciousness? We're big believers in galactic consciousness. We connect to the Palladians and Octarians and all the other beings, but predominantly those two. And we
Yeah.
get some really beautiful messages through for clients and stuff like that. So is that something that you're connecting to on that level?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I can maybe you're maybe this venue is like the right place to share, but we we went to, yeah, I mean, 100%. Literally, the woman I was just in the sauna with before I came here, with my wife as well, was talking about Palladians. And so that's strange that you mention it. And whenever I'm working on a galaxy, I feel so much cosmic energy. I feel there's so much out there, but then there's so much that's so close, and helping in a way that is really high vibe and non-noticeable unless you're tuning into them. Um, I was in England and I had the thought, maybe I'm channeling aliens. Maybe I need to show them what I'm doing. So I went to, and we have video of this, which is crazy. I haven't shared it, but it's wild looking. Um, we went to a hill called Clay Hill in England. It was actually a UFO hotspot. I didn't know that till we got there, and there was an official sign from the government. Um, and my intention was to go to the top of this hill and lay the tapestry out so that I could show them, hey, I'm doing the work. And before we even got to the top of a hill, a giant ring of light appeared in the sky, and my wife's father videotaped the whole thing, and there was like a rainbow doorway in the sky, which we could see, and we filmed. The next day, a crop circle formed in the wheat field at the base of this hill, and I went and meditated in it and felt really strongly connected to something and something quite immaterial. Sorry, my neck when I when I tune into certain things, my neck fires up. Yeah. So definitely. When what are your thoughts too? Because I listened actually to your whole channeling of one of the helpers, and I really enjoyed it, really resonated with it, and felt maybe that's also kind of why we're chatting because I feel it really really strongly, and I see things often. I'm sure you do as well. Um, and I feel we're kind of being invited into a greater fold. Um, But there has to be, we have to reach the tipping point of more people are, not more people are awake or kind of conscious or tuned into that, but just that it could be like 13 people, but 13 people that are just super tuned in, in that moment. But I know it's many, many more, thousands, millions, at certain moments. Yeah,
Mm.
what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think the awareness and the desire is something like the creator wants from within, not just from
Mm.
the external, like everything. And as we learn to go deeper into ourselves, um, we learn that we are a part of a whole in that way, in that sense, once we
Uh,
graduate a few of those levels. And I really feel that that galactic connection is probably the next level of the game in terms of the levels and the dimensions, and they live and exist on this frequency that we just can't see yet. And so I
yeah,
feel like if there's a desire of humanity looking for that, and enough of us anchor in enough light to the planet to graduate to that level as a whole, we then move into that together, and the collective has that experience together for those ones that are tuned on that radio frequency. Because I kind of see
Mm.
like all of us little individual people as like an antenna, and we're like just a little radio antenna, like drawing down energy. And just recently, I really felt that there was like this new divine feminine, like surge of energy coming to the planet. I don't know if you felt that in the last like couple of weeks, but there is
Yeah, yeah.
brand new energy filtering in, and it's just very playful, magic, and loving, but a lot of creation for new strategies.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, 100%. Um, as you're saying that, I mean, it's no coincidence, I guess. I've been working on different galaxies. I have another giant one I'm kind of showing here as well.
Do you know
Um,
what they are? Like, is that representing the Milky Way or
I
Andromeda
think
Galaxy?
I haven't been made aware yet, but I do feel, for example, this one it's very far away distance-wise, but we have this idea that it takes very long for information or well-wishing to travel. But then I've been shown kind of like a doorway or some kind of way that the energy moves out very quickly, like through jumps or something, or then comes closer, and then I have uh, like a ship or some kind of energy, but we're looking at it sideways, and sometimes I feel when it arrives, it's more angelic in its shape almost or energy. Um, and then it's strange you
Like that's a
mentioned the
cosmic womb, like the feminine
yeah,
like womb there.
yeah, yeah, and I have it too. I'm gonna kind of coming. This is
Yeah.
a tree,
God, this
like
is incredible.
hovering above a tree with. I'm working on like stained glass windows, putting some beings in there. But I feel strongly the help that's coming is anchored a lot in the tree energy because it's such an antenna itself. A tree is like an antenna for the earth. And then I actually have been
Oh,
sewing.
that married what I was just saying. So that like portal there in the middle that you just explained, carrying the new volts of energy are coming into
Yeah,
the tree, but also the antennas of each individual on the planet that are ready to receive that frequency and those knowings.
yeah, yeah. Hmm.
Mm.
And I have an interesting little thing that's coming through. It's
Yeah,
so,
yeah,
as you talked about, like before this chat, things coming through. I did a session with a lady, and all this information came through, and I can't help to reflect that a lot of it was meant for this conversation, and I was getting it before because we talk about this term of raising our vibration, but
yeah,
as above, so below. We're like a divine circle, and we actually expand in all directions. So when we raise our vibration, yes, we're going up, but also we're going down as well, anchoring in more. And
yeah, yeah.
up to above our crown chakra is our soul star chakra, which is our interdimensional connection. And two below our root chakra is the earth star chakra. And I
Mm,
very much, and so the connection between the galactic and the terrestrial, let's call it, the earth is our rainbow light body, is our
yeah,
crystalline vessel. So when in balance, through all of our seven chakras, when we've done the emotional clearing work, when we've worked on our false beliefs, when we're vibrating at a high level, we are a clean vessel. So the music of the divine, the spark of the divine that is us, plays through us almost like a musical instrument going down
yeah,
into the terrestrial. And in a sense, we are the vessel for the law of the universe, give and you shall receive, because through that we are able to create our own reality in the now through channeling it through into the terrestrial. Mother Earth then gives back through us whichever we desire, whatever is relevant to our field at
Mhm.
that particular time. Hence the rainbow light body that gets talked about, the ascension vehicle for us to
Yeah.
reach higher levels of consciousness.
And he's got a
Just,
rainbow on his
oh,
next.
Should I show you the rainbow light body I've sewn?
yes, please.
Yes.
Yeah. And also, and then I mean, yeah,
I'll
it's
read
we're
together as we
this is
go.
a good this is a good chat. Give me a second. I'm so grateful for this table that kind of showed up.
I'm so glad. Oh my gosh, here's all the
Oh
trees and the
my
rainbow.
God. You're so talented. This is incredible. So, like, does this just hang on a wall? Like, do you put this up on a wall, this big piece of art? Like,
No, I hardly ever hang it because it's too big, and I never really care to look at the whole thing because I don't need to see a large space to know what to do next. I just kind of, it's not important for me to see it. But when I get invited places, then I share it. So and I felt, the rainbow light body, kind of what you were saying. I felt it kind of leaving my body and coming back. And it's interesting you say too, the anchoring of it to the earth. I feel this like spiraling anchor kind of in the energy of the earth. And then when you talk about the energy traveling up, and also I mean, I've sewn like skyscraper, little cell phone type. So and kind of some snaky energy in there. Also on the other side, some greenery, kind of I'm working on bamboo and little monks meditating. So there's between we kind of live in a world now where we have the digital world, we have the natural world. We can work with both energies and then kind of ascend or, blossom. So then I have a flower kind of coming from the top of the rainbow being's head.
Wow,
mm.
that is
Yeah.
beautiful. I'm
Pete's
just going to
just
get a little
Snapchatting.
video of that. It's so
Do a little
beautiful.
video for the fam. It's so beautiful.
And I think too, the other thing to just mention is like, I think I think there's a we're I recently I dwell often on the idea or the thought there are saints on the planet right now. Like there are really, really divine beings on the planet right now, and most of them are not. A lot of them are. I mean, like hugging Amma is one of them. But there are a lot of gurus, holy women, holy men, and a lot of them are like out in solitude right now doing work. But I think very quickly these saintly people are going to be more recognized and larger movements of people will kind of be pulled to them or be, receive benefit, even if it's a person in a cave and nobody actually sees them. Um, I feel that a lot. Actually, I've shown the Dalai Lama too, because I do feel his energy. I'm not sure if it's the current one or one in the past, but I feel his energy too of like riding this wave, kind of knowing. I think a lot of the really serious practitioners kind of know what's going on, but they have to be careful with their words.
Yeah. Yeah.
They
Yeah.
can't come out and say they're aliens not too far away, or they're ships that are like sending good vibes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
And my reflection on that to you would be, every soul plays its role. So while those who are holding a high vibration and needing to be in a cave are doing their part, I want to really acknowledge you and the work that you're doing because, while they might be light workers, I would very much say you're a warrior because the light
Mm-hmm.
warrior has to actually do something which is slightly more uncomfortable than just being in a cave and getting fed and watered and being sitting in a puddle of peacefulness. We've got to deal with the 3D. So we've got to go out there so the light warrior is we take action on the inspired divine information flowing through us, and we don't remove ourselves from the world, but we are in the world, but not of it. So that by their works you shall know them, radiating your peace, your love, your spark. One of the things you said, they said to you in the beginning was you wanted to come back and like laugh and lighten the mood of this whole thing.
Mm.
I feel like the new paradigm is a spiritual person doesn't just sit in a puddle of peacefulness. A
Yeah, yeah.
spiritual person's got enthusiasm, spark, they're funny. You want to be around them because they have this generosity of spirit. So there's this authenticity which is unique that just flows through because we can all tap the same divine information, but our vessel's unique. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Mm. Well said. Well said. Oh. You were going to share a story before. What was that story? You had something to say before. Is that still?
Well, we're gonna ask you about
Reflecting.
your plant medicine journey and
Yeah, yeah.
how you and your wife met, and yeah, share a little bit about that, perhaps.
Yeah. Can I change the background again? I'll use,
Yeah.
Definitely.
I feel like a teacher with a chalkboard or something.
I just love that there's a part of the tapestry for each part
I
of
love it.
the story.
It's just like a big piece of art that is like a story in itself. It's so cool. And it just reminds me so much like a medicine journey, like the colors and
The duality in that
like
orb there. Look at that, the light and the dark,
the way it's all
the angelic.
presented.
Beautiful.
Very,
So this
very
is
cool.
I had a lot of internal hesitation about plant medicine because of my meditation history. And I was living in LA for a while, but then I left, went to a 10-day meditation course and had some really good experiences, but enough to know, okay, this is something I should continue doing. And very quickly, I found myself living at a meditation center, volunteering in the kitchen. And from then on, I just continued to go to course after course after course, volunteering, traveling around, studying ancient languages. So when I came to the plant medicine part of my journey, which was totally unexpected, I had some reservations, thinking like, okay, is this intoxication or is this not, the right thing to do? But uh, I got pulled into it. I mean, it's so. I don't know. Should I talk about this or no? This isn't.
Yeah, absolutely. Nothing's off the table here.
Yeah, it's strange too. I guess it's important to share because I haven't shared it yet. Um, so I met my wife. She's incredible. She's so wonderful. I love her very much. And she was organizing retreats for psilocybin mushroom ceremonies for a very reputable woman in England, a very reputable organization. Um, and she needed a meditation teacher for the mornings. So I just she hired me. And so I kind of guided meditation in the mornings. And then I sat in a mushroom ceremony. But I thought I'm just going to meditate and kind of hold a frequency, hold a vibe, just keep practicing. I'll be on mushrooms, or I like to say maybe with mushrooms sounds better. But I'll just sit here. But as we were doing this in Costa Rica, beautiful, beautiful retreat center in this like bamboo kind of wooden yoga deck, high up in the jungle. I mean, so beautiful. The sounds and the rain. This Navy SEAL started to have a really strong, powerful purging experience. He was doubled over on his hands and knees. He was screaming into the jungle. He was crying. He was shaking. And I'm ex-military, and I've worked with Navy SEALs, and I was no slouch. I was like honor graduate of my Ranger School class. I went to Iraq 3 times. I did like a lot of, back in the day we would call it like sexy, sexy shit, or that's how we would speak. Now it's pretty different in my mind. So I suddenly felt compelled to go over and work on him or something. So I went over and started snapping my fingers and making hissing sounds and like pulling things from his body and doing stuff by his ears and like grabbing him and shaking him and manipulating him. And I could feel really quickly what's going on and how we work with at least this plant medicine. Um, so then the next ceremony, then there was a guitar. I picked up the guitar. We started singing music. I was singing, and I understood how the music works with medicine. And it went so well. Then we we were hired to do many more. So we traveled then to Jamaica, did some ceremonies there. We traveled then to the Netherlands. And then we would also do, private ones with friends and stuff. So for a while, I was very into psilocybin mushrooms. And and this, I'll share this because I was not allowed to share this part of the story at one point, but and for good reason. I was in the Netherlands on the final ceremony of a mushroom gathering, 5-day retreat, and I was singing, playing guitar, and there was a woman who was from I think I don't want to say it wrong, but I think she was from Nairobi or Ethiopia, a beautiful woman, and her mother had just died. And she had given us a photograph of her mother framed to have kind of in the altar space or with the crystals and the flowers and all these other tools of the shaman. And I felt in a moment of her kind of sadness and grief, just a real strong feeling of like, God, I wish I could just share a little love with her. So I started singing I think just the words, I am home, I am home. It wasn't a song I knew, but it felt like the right thing to sing. And then I could see her working through whatever it was and then feeling her mother. And then I felt her mother. And then I started crying. And the photograph of her mother, a beautiful black woman, and they photographed her sitting in a chair with a mirror behind her to show her the way they braided her hair. But her mother wasn't smiling. It was very like serious. And when I started crying, the tears on the surface of my eyes bent the whole room. And her face was bent in a huge smile. And I started crying even more. But
Oh,
it was such a like, it was just love lit the room up. Everybody was wishing well for this woman. And then she kind of tuned into something and we all felt it and it resonated out. And then in the tapestry, we had it hung behind us just as like, art or no one really ever asked what I was doing. Um, and and then I remembered being a monk in a previous life. That like opening of love in me suddenly allowed me to remember my previous life. I remembered why I was sewing. I remembered where I lived in Sri Lanka. I remembered if I went certain places on the planet, I would find old embroidery I had done. Now I've done that. Um, all this
mm,
stuff came
Really?
wow.
through.
Wow, wow,
And
really? So you
yeah,
there's
yeah, I
that
mean, I
you've
have
done in the
video.
past.
Yeah, I traveled to Sri Lanka a year and a half after that and went to this island, a little lagoon. I mean, it was so cinematic. It was silly, but it was this beautiful lagoon. There's an island in the middle with just trees. Nobody knows. I mean, some locals know there's a monastery, but it's not like you can email them. I chanted on the far banks, and a boat came out of the trees, picked me up, took me to the island, and I conversed with the monks there and said, in short, I remember being here in a past life. They took out an old photo book. There's photos of me and the different body. We look pretty similar. And then the monk I was speaking with then said, "You can record this. This is important because we have photos here. We should take photos now." He said, "I remember being your teacher." So I have video of him sitting underneath his own photograph, and he and I meditating because we recognized, oh, this really works. Like this is you're,
Holy.
you're
Chill.
remembering it,
Yeah, I
and
should do this.
so then it went. I didn't bring the books to kind of do more. It feels like a magic trick, but then he took me into the library, very small but so beautiful, and oh, how I missed it. I mean, it was so. I felt like I was back, but also I felt some hesitation because the next test was to well, first I should say, so he tested me. If I was a monk in a previous life, I should know certain suttas. So he would begin one in Pali, this ancient Indian language, and I would complete it. So one of them was what the Buddha said when he attained enlightenment. I won't do the whole thing, it's kind of long, but it's anicca vata sankara upadavaya dhammino upajitva nirujanti tassangavu pasmo sukho anika jati sangsarang sandave sanganibisang. It continues on for a while, but
Oh,
so he tested me in different ways. And then
oh my God.
yeah, then he took me into
And
later
I want to
another.
make this really, really clear. Really, really clear.
Okay.
You didn't even know that language or any of this before, like your accident, this journey, this unfolding, right? This is like
No,
you
no,
just, he asked you
I,
that question and you just knew the song. Is that how it
no,
happened?
I knew it from memory in this life. So I've been the way I came to the language in this life was I was so drawn to meditation. As soon as I knew they were old teachings, I had to learn them
Yeah, yeah.
how they actually sounded. I needed to understand the words and not get lost in translation and not lose anything. I needed to hear these old, teachings, and they because they still exist. And
God,
so
that
I
just sings to your soul. Sorry, can I just say that
yeah, yeah, yeah.
your frequency bringing that through then, that just
Mm.
did something to both of our hearts, I
Oh,
think.
cool. Yeah. It's an old man. It's a good chant.
I'll let you know
Um,
if we levitate later.
yeah, yeah. So he took me, I mean, this is in the coolest part. I wish we could have filmed it, but he just wanted us to film ourselves meditating. It's just a video, 15 minutes long of nothing. We're just sitting there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, so he takes me into this library, quite narrow, quite high bookshelves, and each bookshelf is covered with a little pane of glass you can slide out of the way because it's Sri Lanka, it's super humid, and you have to keep the bugs out. And he said, "Find your book." And so in this previous lifetime, and what I remembered at the end of this Netherlands ceremony was I remembered translating a book in my past life. I had already read it in this life because I was so enamored with all of these texts, but I didn't know I had been the one who translated it. Um, but now I did, or that's what I felt. So he said, "Find your book." And I thought, oh, I can't do this. Like, I remember this space, but I don't know where this book is. And this is kind of the end of this trail. But I just thought, no, no, I've gotten this far. I'm sewing this tapestry. I'm on this island. Like this monk says he remembers me. Just trust. So I just walked forward, stuck my hand out, pulled out a book, and that was it. And then he
Oh,
Oh
said, "Oh,
my gosh.
very, very good." And then he said, and I haven't shared this yet publicly. This is kind of I can show it to you later, but there was a note hidden in the book. So part of what,
Well,
silly monks do sometimes is, or not silly, I shouldn't say that, but uh, you don't own anything when you're a monk. You own a begging bowl or your alms bowl. You own two robes. Sometimes you own three, but you should just have two. And that's kind of it. And so you can't really bring somebody a robe and say, "Do you remember this?" But there are certain things you can leave in the monastery. So if you ever return, you can confirm you're back. There was a note hidden in the book, and he knew about it, and I showed it to him. It's like encoded in the text. And it exists on Google. So if I share it, anybody could go search it for themselves and see, like, oh my God, there's this thing hidden in this book. Um, so. So at
that's
the end of this ceremony in the Netherlands, I had all of this come through. It was like it all came through in images of how I died, where I was, beautiful memories, but just it wasn't the whole lifetime. It was just enough that was helpful for me in that moment to continue me on my path, and the path was out of plant medicine for a bit. I had opened up enough to know, okay, now I just keep meditating and do the plant ceremonies not as part of a business, but just when they come about. I
Yeah,
still, we will do one at some point. Um,
I love that.
so, so I wanted to share that in the sharing circle at the end. And the other woman I was working with, who was the senior like shaman, who I love, she's amazing. Um, she kind of shut me down and said, "No, it's not your turn to share." And I thought, well, oh my, I really have a lot to share. This is really big. You guys are going to love this. And she said no. And she was right. If I would have shared that, they would have thought I was crazy. So I've kind of, so I just kept sewing. Then I realized, we're not allowed to speak so much in this world. No worries. I'll sew a massive scream of a message. Also a beautiful, peaceful something. And I won't have to speak. So, and then it really exploded. The color really deepened. I understood more things. Essentially, this book that I remember translating is called The Path to Purification. The actual word is Visuddhimagga, but the translation that I remember doing was not that great. So if you read the translation, you're going to lose some things. That's what happens in translation. So I realized I can just sew the energy and encode that whole book into a tapestry in a way. And really, the book or the message is no different than any teaching. It's being a moral person, having virtue kind of as a basis, just so your mind is somewhat, balanced.
Mhm.
Um, then working on your awareness, strengthening your awareness, tightening that focus and the way in which you can direct it, especially when you're working just with the mind. And then the third part, the final part is wisdom, cultivating wisdom, and there are a million ways to do it. Plant medicine is a huge one. And I think the earth knows that. So that's why it's being ejected out into cities. It's being like grown in uh, maybe cruise ships. Who knows? I surfed with my mind and suddenly I saw a guy growing it in his cruise ship like a worker. So if you're watching this video,
Yeah,
give me a call.
we're on to you. There
Oh,
was
yeah.
so much in that there's so many ways we could go with that whole bubble of information that you just shared, that story. And it's fascinating because there's a couple of things there that I want to say. It's like, I'd love to know what the message or the vibration of the note, the clue that you left for yourself, because there's only
Ah,
one other person that we know that has left clues. Like if you're an old soul, you've incarnated a few different times, you're coming back in for the big show, you'd leave clues for yourself somewhere, right? And so
yeah,
this
yeah,
your clue. Robert Edward Grant also left some clues for himself in the chamber in the Great Giza Plateau period, the
yeah.
pyramid.
Wait,
For
wow.
a
Say that again. Who?
so we went on tour with Robert Edward Grant in
Okay.
Egypt last year, was it? And you know, a few times before that, he found some clues that he'd left for himself or remembered the Alpha and the Omega, right? And that was
Mm.
ingrained into the edge of the sarcophagus,
Sarcophagus
which
in
had
the
not been
quartz.
ever discovered before. And so it was big,
Wow.
big news. And then he started finding Alpha Omegos everywhere throughout Egypt in different temples, which never had been identified. So it was
Wow.
a little breadcrumb, my point is, for him to be activated in some kind of way, right? So
Yeah.
that's the only other person that we've ever come across that has a unique story like yours. Yeah, so there's that. And then I was going to say about like your voice. Your voice is actually very powerful. And I
Mm.
don't know if you really realize that yet. You've kind of just like gone, oh, just my fingers will sew and I'll bring the energy through. But I sense that if you're singing like what are the
Like an Icaro.
Icaro, like while you're stitching, there's going to be frequency
Yeah.
behind it that's coming to the atmosphere in an energetic form. I don't
Which
know.
was the reason why
No,
earlier
I do.
the
So,
mushrooms linked his throat to his fingers.
It's probably why
And
he ended.
you mentioned that earlier in the call. The mushrooms link that showed you the link between your throat and your fingers.
Right.
yeah, yeah.
There's a link there, I'm sure, with that movement, which I very much am getting is a finesse It's a unique thread that is you that you do. I even noticed your ring finger when you pull the thread tight, the way
Oh
that
yeah.
you did that. And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
saw the finesse. It's a little bit like the way a person might hold a cup of tea. They
Yeah,
can,
yeah.
well, there's a little bit
I
of finesse. And I noticed things like that.
So you had to break your neck for this all to
yeah.
happen. Isn't it
No, it's
crazy?
great. I mean,
Like
look,
straight to
if
the
you
throat chakra.
yeah, a couple, I mean, we could go in many directions. Yeah, I'll just say now, and then we can move from it. But I feel green Tara energy a lot. And when I broke my neck, I had to wear a teal green neck brace, which was a similar color to paintings of green Tara we had. And I wasn't allowed to look. I wasn't allowed to rubberneck. If I wanted to turn to somebody, I'd have to turn my whole body. So I would never let my. It was like I was given a brace to work in the digital world. Like I couldn't look down at a phone. I couldn't look
Mm,
to see what other people were doing. I just had to be super
present.
zen and feminine. And yeah, when I sew, I feel, I mean, I write left-handed. I sew, no, I mean, now I feel like my writing is left-handed. I write with my right hand, I sew with my left. So I make choices to make words with this hand, and I make choices to make color with this hand. So I feel an incredible tuning in of a balance of masculine and feminine. And when I sew, I do chant. I chant the same mantra again and again, and I love it.
There we
And
go.
it's what the Buddha, we know, historically, even the Buddha chanted it before he became a Buddha. It was just an old chant that was so old, everybody did it because it was so activating and so complete. So I chant this short chant again and again and again and again. Um, I even did it today when I was in the sauna alone. Uh, so you're totally right. I mean, yeah.
May I ask what the words are? What are the
I
words?
mean, I can chant it quickly and you can cut it out later or use it or
No,
whatever.
we'll
But
keep it.
I mean, I
Let's
might
let's
as well. I
let's
can't say the words because honestly, I don't remember them. I only remember the flow of the chant. But and you might recognize it. There's different ways to do it. And this, I was tuned into like, I mean, this it's crazy part of the story. I was tuned into this in the Netherlands, the final ceremony. I chanted this, and from it later, a woman paid for all of my threads. And she was from India. She said, "I've never heard it the right way, and I think you just did it the right way." My ancestors were like, so it goes something like this. But I have to take a moment to kind of. Om, om, Om Bhurбhuva Swaha Tatsavitu Vareniriyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Prachodayat Om Bhurбhuva Swaha Tatsavitu Vareniriyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Prachodayat Om Bhurбhuva Swaha Tatsavitu Vareniriyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Prachodayat Om Bhurбhuva Swaha Tatsavitu Vareniriyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Prachodayat
Mm, that was incredible. Oh
The
God.
guy, it's the Gayatri mantra. There are many like Devi Parnell or Patel does a really good rendition. So yeah, it's It's a good
Oh,
feeling.
So funny because
uh,
as soon as you started singing, we closed our eyes. I was getting visuals with your vibration of like
Hmm.
water and then just like little messages that are happening for me at the moment. But that was beautiful. Thank you.
so
Yeah, yeah,
do you know what those words are?
no. I know I I looked them up once years ago. Um, but I understand, I mean I memorize a lot of mantra, but I understand it doesn't the words are not really that important, the vocabulary. It's just the sound and the way the sound is woven together and where you feel it in the body. So the once you know a mantra, then you just do it and then just become aware of what you're feeling and like you say what comes to mind visually and just continue to tune to the feeling of it. It'll that one particularly moves all up and down the body. And actually since you Pete shared about the chakras, I'm sure and I can kind of feel I never really tried to do it, but as I feel into like the upper and the lower, it's a real full link. Um that's
But
the medicine of that
the
particular
reason I
mantra.
asked you whether you knew the words is I don't know why, but I've got a really keen ear and I don't know what the words are, but I felt like you said every single one really well, and I don't even know
Ah,
what they are. But I could
yeah, yeah.
hear you articulate each little one, like, and they
Yeah.
stood out like it's like if I listen to music, I can just hear the guitar, or I can just hear the drum, or I
Mm,
can just hear the voice. And when someone doesn't quite, hit the note on medicine or something, and I'm lying,
Yeah.
I have a little smile at the soul,
Yeah, yeah,
singing a
yeah.
song for me.
Yeah.
And I like love that it's sweet on the little bit.
Yeah.
Like I like see the beauty in the imperfection, if
mm.
it's not right.
Yeah, totally.
Of course, when
Totally.
I hit it right, I love it too. But it's like I don't even know why. I'm not a musician.
Maybe you
I'm
are.
articulate,
Yeah,
but
maybe you are.
Maybe
uh,
I
you
don't, I'm
are.
not a sewer.
yeah, but hey,
Yeah.
hence button on, right?
Yeah, can
Yeah,
start.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Mm.
Uh,
Wow, this has been so nice. Thanks for singing. That was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
so
Yeah, I
different.
wasn't expecting. I wasn't actually. It's funny. I was kind of half expect. I didn't know how it would work in, but in the sauna, it felt so nice. I thought, man, I just want to kind of keep doing this all
Yeah.
evening.
But Nuestro, this is, I think, what our authentic selves look like. It's like I
Mm.
know we've only known one another for an hour, but I feel like it's effortless conversation, and we could just hang and drink cups of tea and talk and get profound and have a laugh. And I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that is what this energy, that beautiful one. By their works you shall know them, right? Or what you
Mm.
are speaks so loudly, right? People can't hear
Mm.
what you're saying. This
Yeah.
is like the energy of, what we said before about, the light worker. We've got to go to the grocery store, right? We've got to do these things in our day-to-day life where we're mixing with what some people who don't even know they've got a soul,
Mm.
Yeah,
they
yeah, yeah,
just
yeah.
in
Yeah,
exist.
yeah.
And I think it's part of the work, right? That frequency that we just
Mm.
give off and resonate with.
Totally, totally. Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I love, by the way, that you said you tuned into us before doing the call, because no one has ever said that to us before an interview.
Ah,
And
ah, yeah.
it's
I mean,
funny.
it's super important. It's
Mm.
so important and it's so easy. I don't really do anything special. It's just bringing you to mind, and then letting whatever's there be there or. But yeah, I did it for a while. I was having I mean, last night was strange. I was laying in bed for probably 2 hours in like a fever dream of the two of you, or like just wondering if I'm tuning in too much, or like, is this gonna, or what are they doing? Like, I would have flashes of kind of what you all were doing, and but no,
Well,
then
what
like,
were we doing last night?
I know, I just relaxing on the phone, um, on a couch or something. No,
You're too kind.
I,
Thank you for
I
keeping
felt,
that.
yeah,
He's blushing.
I try to do it locally, just to be aware of people around me and then have like a good, well-wishing thought for them. I use intersections a lot. Like when I'm driving, if I stop at an intersection, I just quickly imagine we're all in an ashram facing the center, and I wish everybody well on their course today, their spiritual course, because
Oh,
it's,
that's beautiful.
and like you, so you kind of had your first tuning in or your first awakening before COVID. So you were a little more keen to kind of what was going on. I was on a 30-day meditation course when COVID was starting. So when we came out, the whole world was like masked, separated. There were signs on walls. I was really curious about how quickly they got all these decals on the floor that told me to be away from other people, 6 feet. And I could feel all of these things. And I think the pendulum swung one way at that point, energetically, a big wave of kind of fear. But everybody who was kind of tuned in already, after we got rocked by that wave, now we're quickly moving with the energy of everything, the planet, the galaxy, all of that stuff. Um, And so connecting with you all, it's like it's nice to these conversations are nice and it's nice for other people to be privy of them because they're happening all over the place. People are chatting. I mean, I can, I know for sure you've had probably some of the best conversations just when you're hanging out, or at the end of a ceremony or in the middle of a retreat. And then there's a desire among those present for those conversations. We need to share this somehow. And I've had that thought too, but then I think not my position in this world, but I'm so glad to meet with you because you guys you have like the technical prowess and because you had the insurance training of just knowing how to live in the matrix or live in the world and deal with like that type of thing, you then could reapply that energy to set this up. And last night when I was laying in bed tuning into that our connection or whatever, it was just clear like, okay. I could also see it's kind of getting started. But as you continue to do your work, which you will and which you are, you'll open up a big portal. So yeah, I'm happy to be
That's so
portal
awesome.
tested number, whatever. Yeah, yeah.
Thank you for that. Yeah, we've definitely worked out that everything you do, there's a reason for everything, right? And you would know
Yeah,
that everything's something. Like
yeah,
every
yeah.
sign, symbol, word, conversation, it's leading us forward on the path. And if we have the conscious mind and put the blinkers down to really see it and tune into every present moment, it's something and it's
Yeah.
deepening. Yeah, I love it. We just love this journey so much. Like we will never go back to being insurance agents ever. Oh my God, stop.
It's tough for people. Go
Yeah.
ahead, yeah.
I was going to say, I love the military background because one of the early journeys in medicine, I got shown that it was like some of us light workers, it's like we go on the mission, and we get flown in the helicopter over enemy lines, we get dropped into the jungle, and the first thing we've got to do is wander through the forest and find one another, or we've got to
Yeah,
sort of come
yeah, yeah.
together. And it's like we were connected before we came in, right? And now, I found you. Let's do the mission.
I've been, as you mentioned, a Black Hawk, or as you mentioned, a helicopter. I've
Yeah.
been sewing a little, let me see if I can frame it right, a little Black Hawk
Oh,
helicopter right here to
Ooh.
kind of
Oh,
show, because
chills. Oh, oh God.
even on a mission in Iraq, one of my last missions, I had a spiritual experience there as well, and so I've seen how they kind of we feel like they get dropped in, but I won't try to describe how it happens or what it is, but yeah, it's sweet to start to see how everything we've experienced is interdependent and it was necessary or helpful to get us to where we are next. So your experience of that, especially insurance, because it's such a
Oh,
um
boring.
yeah, it's like it's changing the idea of value and saving things and what we
trusting.
need to do to protect ourselves. Our greatest insurance is our presence in every moment. Our greatest insurance is a balanced mind, irrespective of what's going on outside our eyeballs or even inside our mind. So and I think we're recognizing that value in rapid fashion because the world is unsteady. So how can we possibly have security? It's not really, insurance is like uh, that's one level of it. So you've already understood what insurance means, but there's a higher resonance of insurance. A sadhu owns nothing, very assured man. Like a saint owns nothing, great insurance.
Yeah.
Like super powerful person. They won't come to harm unless it's like karmic and destined. And then they'll
It's
be
like
totally
it's
zen
a
about it.
duality game, right? So we must have chosen the insurance to have the complete opposite at the end
Yeah,
towards the ascension process. It's an opposites game.
yeah,
So you have in your childhood and your beginning of your life, it's guaranteed to be the exact opposite to those vibrations in your ascension
yes.
journey.
Imagine US Joe looking at his contract before he came in. He's sitting there, he's reading. So what? I've got to be a soldier, run around and
Then I break my neck.
shoot shit and
Yeah.
be in dangerous situations. Then what? I had to break my neck.
Yeah,
Then what?
yeah,
You're gonna start stitching divine messages.
yeah, yeah.
Connecting with
Well,
my wow.
and the yeah, I'll show you one more thing too, and I'll answer your question, what's hidden in the book, because I might as well. I don't have
Oh,
the
I
book, but
love that. I didn't
people
want to.
can look it up. So, and this will kind of, maybe it's a good way to come to a close, or I can
Yeah,
actually, can I take
absolutely.
because I have like
Yeah, brother.
multiple glasses. I have a third one over there.
You need to go.
One, yeah. Okay. So, and the rain's falling here. It's gorgeous. So, yeah, let me take one more break and I'll show you a very special, not that special, but a flower that has an importance that I recognize that's quite sweet. It's a cool story. All right, I'll be right back.
Okay.
Okay. So kind of, I questioned a lot why I was a soldier again, because I was in war and I had to shoot my weapon at people and people died. And I could say I've killed people, but I don't know for sure if it was my bullet that was the one that hit, because many people were shooting all at once. But I've seen men die in front of me you know, at, right in front of my feet, and seeing people leave, you know, I've seen the breath leave people and seen and felt something else kind of leave too. So when I started meditation, I quickly realized, oh, I thought I really screwed up. And so I have to like absolve or dissolve or evaporate this karma that keeps me locked in being a soldier. Because even on my first meditation course, I had a feeling I'd been a soldier before. I didn't know how. Um, and and I could even see myself in like a World War II kind of helmet kind of thing, like kind of a tin looking thing, and drab green clothing and stuff. And so as I started to remember more, this monk that I remember being, before he was a monk, he was a soldier. He was in World War II. And he was good with languages, which I'm kind of good with languages. Um, Before he was ever a soldier, that's when he was embroidering flowers. And he was a gay man. I'm not a gay man in this life, but I can remember some of his karma involving like, and I can understand uh, some of my own karma of like sexuality and craving, and especially having that being repressed. During World War II, if you were gay in the military, that was like a
Mhm.
death sentence. Um, so before he was a soldier, he was living in this like an old, almost like a castle in England with a friend, and he was staying there for free in one of the high rooms in the top. But he always felt a sense of like needing to pay or something. And the mother of the household would always complain about the dining room chairs and how they were very shabby and needed to be taken away. And so one day, as a gift, this young man, uh, like maybe 19 years old at the time, embroidered flowers into the dining room chairs. So this is a flower I started embroidering, not having that memory like returned to me yet. I just felt really compelled to sew, let's see, this flower above the meditating kind of rainbow light body. Um, and then I met a woman who is still alive. She's 83 years old now, I think. And her godfather was a Buddhist monk. And in short order, we realized the Buddhist monk who was her godfather was the man who translated this book, who was the man who sewed these flowers, who was the man I remember being. So she invited me to England to see the chairs. And we're heading to England next to see her again because um, she's older now and she might be, yeah, I'm gonna go see her. It's important to see her. So I went to her house and the same flower was in the chairs.
Oh my
Oh my God.
gosh.
You-
And I embellished it a bit because I could remember if then I could remember, okay, this isn't my first time. It's like two lifetimes of time. And then I remember even older. I mean, people sew a lot. Sewing's not so uncommon. Um, so as I started to remember being this young man who was gay, who did some embroidery, which was also kind of, out there. He's a man embroidering back then. That was even stranger.
Mm.
Um, People really liked the chairs when they came over for dinner, and so he got a lot of compliments. He kept going, but then he had to join the military for World War II,
Oh,
um, and because of his good language, he ended up going from anti-artillery like regimen to kind of being a spy catcher or interviewing Italian captives to see if they were spies, which is difficult when you don't speak Italian, but he spoke pretty well. And then he would sometimes have like romantic feelings toward these men.
oh,
And he also had a lot of like feeling of he's sending people to their death. And it was a real, mess of mind. So while he was a soldier, he started reading about Buddhism through like a translated Italian book on Buddhism. And the same thing happened when I was in Iraq on my third deployment. I had this weird or strange experience, and I ordered a Buddhist book and the Bible and the Quran, the Bhagavad Gita. I didn't even know what the Bhagavad Gita or the Dhammapada were, but I ordered these books. So I kind of did the same thing that life and this life, but then I was able to remember that life and keep working on um, karma or, residue or tensions or untying knots, maybe. So the thing that was hidden in the book was the name of the guy who sewed the flower. So the name of the book has the name of the monk on the cover. His name was Nanamoli. Jnana means wisdom. Moli is like the little top knot of hair. So like highest wisdom is like the name that was given to him, just with like well wishing, like may you hopefully get that. um, and he hid his name somewhere in the book, and he encoded his entire name. It was Osbert John Salvin Moore. Not a very like movie-esque name, Osbert, but and everyone called him Bertie. But he hid his entire, you could say, Christian name in the book, which is kind of like a no-no. You can't use a translation of a sacred text to hide your name. And it also showed some large ego because he couldn't let go of his name. As a monk, he has done that, but he really hadn't. So it was nice when I remembered that because I was studying this man or the man I remember being before I remembered being him. I was just studying these books, and all of these monks I revered as enlightened people. But when I found that he hid his own name in the book, um, I thought, okay, well, he clearly still has ego, and I clearly still have ego. And so, it's like working in that space. And I won't say where it's hidden. At some point, if people are curious, they can go look or they can message me. I'll tell them where it is. But it's definitely in there. At some point, I'll show it. Because when you see it, you can't unsee it. And then it's like, how did that happen? What's going
but
on?
like, what if you just look at it like it's the cheeky, like spark of the divine, and that, maybe
Hmm.
monks have a little bit of cheeky spark within them. Obviously, they
Yeah.
and just surrender and accept that like little spark because it's given you a breadcrumb. Like
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
I like the fact that you're not too perfect, you
Yeah.
know. Like the monk who's got a little bit of rebel in him, for
Yeah.
Yeah.
me,
Yeah.
is the monk I want to hang with, right? It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
you're 99% right, but you still got a little bit of
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah. I won't. I don't drink alcohol, but I'll smoke some weed, or we can do some mushrooms or ayahuasca. Or, I'll tune in. However people are tuning in.
It's
So
so funny. Oh, I don't drink, but I'll drink ayahuasca. It's
Yeah.
like so many people are so scared of ayahuasca,
Oh.
let alone.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Oh
Oh, well,
wow.
Nuestro, seriously, what an amazing conversation. I appreciate you being so generous with your time.
Mm.
Now, people watching, how can people support you? How can we like help your work, follow your work? Like, how do you travel around? What do you do?
Do you
How do you make
do you
money?
sew for people?
Yes, tell us.
Yeah, no, I'm sewing for my wife right now a jacket. Gorgeous, like from it's like a long dress. So I'm sewing her jacket right now. But I if you want to get in contact with me, I have a website. It's my name, nuestronanamoli.com. And then I have some Instagram stuff, but I don't post much. I'll just post like the next event I'll be at. But um yeah, the way that I am kind of working in the world now is people book calls with me. I have one in person tomorrow, but I a lot of times work online and we just chat kind of like this. And then I see kind of what spirit is coming through and usually end up relaying messages. Yeah, and it's the directions the chats go are totally different every time. I mean, just to color it, and this is very unique, but I was contacted by two sisters in Guam in their 50s, and I asked if I could share this story. So, and they said yes. They were very happy about it. Um, and their son had been murdered. It was staged as a suicide, and they wanted to know what happened. So I did like a crime scene investigation, which I didn't know I could. That was like on the in the cards, but I did it. But I told them I'm feeling strongly the spirit of him and the main message overwhelmingly, and he shared it in so many ways was, Mama, you have to forgive the man who shot me. That's your highest path of ascension is like total forgiveness and full letting go. Because they were seeking, rightfully so, like justice, and what happened. We need to see the crime scene. I was able to see some things and another medium had already seen it. So it was easy to like confirm what was happening. But yeah, the thing I love the most is doing calls with people because there's always a link. It's always the right person to speak with.
Hey, thanks so much for coming on the show today. We've really enjoyed your
Oh,
energy,
Yeah, yeah, of
your
course.
artwork. Thank you
yeah.
for your service and bringing through this divine creation, this sewing. Who would have thought you'd be doing sewing after the journey? And it's been so nice to dive deep into your journey this lifetime. Thank you.
All right, amazing. Until next time.
Take
Bye
care,
bye,
brother.
brother.
We'll talk soon.
Bye.